Give me just a second to get the live stream going and I'll let you know when we're ready. Okay, we are recording and live streaming, and Mayor, you can go ahead and take the floor.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. This is a work session, July 20, 2020, for the purpose of discussion relating to the framework of outlining the town administrator's goals and priorities. John, do you know if for a work session we do the formal meeting protocols with roll call and everything else?
No, we should, I've got the roll here. So I have Trustee Bierma, Trustee Harper, Trustee Wiegert, Mayor Pro Tem Barney, and Mayor Furman in attendance, and staff members Ryder and Branner.
Perfect. All right, I'd love to frame the work session if that's all right with everyone. I did receive some feedback that the purpose of tonight's meeting was a little unclear. So to address that feedback, I prepared just a quick little summary. So section 9A of the employment agreement with Administrator Ryder provides that within 3 months of the commencement date, the board and manager shall arrange a work session wherein they agree to goals and priorities for manager for the upcoming year as manager of the town. Such goals and priorities shall be set forth in writing and shall be reviewed during manager's annual review. The goals and priorities may be modified as necessary on an annual basis or more frequently as the board and manager may deem necessary. Additionally, at the same work session, manager and the board shall agree to criteria to be evaluated at manager's annual review. Such criteria may be modified as necessary on an annual basis or more frequently as the board deems necessary. So it's my understanding that to date, it didn't seem timely to set up this work session, that the marching orders for the first few months were pretty straightforward. And then we went into crisis mode and election mode. And I think now that we're starting to get our feet underneath us, this is a great time to check in. And it's my understanding that the purpose of this being in the contract is really to create a foundation for purposeful work and direction for both the trustees and the town administrator. And my goal is that this is what enables all of us to work together really effectively and to achieve more than we might otherwise. The goal here is not to hone in on, any specific thing that has gone right or wrong, but simply to create that framework for how we set the expectations and move forward together as a team. I thought about the evaluation itself quite a bit, and I did a little bit of research to see what other communities do. And the goals of a manager evaluation often relate to creating a framework for the process of planning, reviewing, and providing feedback on performance of the manager. It's used as a means of demonstrating organizational accountability to citizens, employees, and local stakeholders. It's a means of maintaining alignment between the town board goals and achievements attained. It's a means of determining the need for further professional development, education, or training of a manager. And it also can be a very helpful element for decision-making regarding compensation and other things of that nature. So with that kind of foundation in mind, I'm hoping we can kick this off by looking at the goals and objectives that Administrator Ryder put together for us, which I think are a really great starting point. If it's all right with you, John, I'm going to share that. Is that?
Yeah,
that's okay?
Absolutely.
As a screen share? Cool.
Everybody got it via email.
Cool. And just in case they didn't, and we do have, I guess, 2 attendees as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share the original document. So this was a document that Administrator Ryder sent to the trustees that includes some really, I think, pretty inclusive overarching goals for what he hopes to achieve for the town. In going through this, I saw a few categories that I thought might help frame this discussion a little better. So without changing any of the substance, I started putting together this reformatted version of the document, which it looks like I have to stop this share and now share this one. There we go. And so what I saw through that document were 5 categories that stood out pretty obviously to me, but I would love, starting at this point, for this to be a collaborative process with the trustees and administrator writer kind of weighing in on what they saw here too. But the categories I pulled out of your bullets were organization and administration, communication, leadership and culture, economic stability, and relationship building. Administrator writer, does that sound like a pretty good summary of like your key targets?
Yeah, that looks great, Mayor.
Cool. And then I did put my head together with Mayor Pro Tem to look also at the employee manual and pull out some of like the criteria that were included in there for the job description. And I actually don't know if that's the current job description. That employee manual is back from like 2012. So I bracketed all the stuff that I added in the event that it's outdated or needs to be replaced with whatever is more current. But in organization and in administration, I added annual budget, code updates, contract administration. In communication, we added kind of this soft category of responsiveness. And then down in economic stability, we added grant writing. And in relationship building, one final bullet of facilitating a better understanding of roles and responsibilities among all the Silverton stakeholders. From there, I kind of took my hands off, and Sally had been, Mayor Pro Tem Barney had been talking about at our last meeting an SFLC format that she had found really useful for the director role there. And she kind of took it over and created a template that then converted these goals and objectives into categories where we could all work together, or administrator writer, you could put in action items. And so I think at that point, I'm going to kick it over to Mayor Pro Tem Barney to kind of chat through her process there. And then I'd like to open it up for discussion. You can tell us all that we're way off base and we're going to go a different direction, or this is helpful and we can use this as a baseline to begin developing whatever we need.
Okay, good summary, Mayor Furman. I mean, then I did a lot of cutting and pasting, but well, when I got administrator writers goals and organizations, I actually started kind of categorizing similar to Mayor Furman's process to just try and, again, like with the process with SFLC, those like the goal piece is driven by whatever the state standard is, but sort of in line with that framework, thinking about the overarching categories that linked the ideas that administrator writer already identified. And then because they are, and then naming those objectives. So you can see on the, so then I created this template where there's, and actually I did look at what some other towns had done, just in terms of like template or worksheet style, and got some of the ideas from that. So the objective being what administrator writer identified, an action item needing, you can see that's blank on the template. So like that would be further to describe the work of the objective. And then because this would be the tool that we refer back to during reviews, that's where status came in. And I think it's important to just recognize that some of these things, are never going, it wouldn't necessarily be something that you check off the list, like staff culture, check, done. That's an ongoing. And anticipated, I think that needs some semantic tweaking there. I think that's like the category, that's the fun part. That's the great part of the job, right? So like whatever anticipated, whatever the word there is, that's like once, kind of like once we get through coronavirus and once I, have some of these things in place, like this is the good stuff. This is the long-term kind of visionary work potentially, or it's just that just had to kind of be tabled, but I anticipate, that will be coming down the pipe, or I hope it will, or I don't know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I just kind of copied and pasted the objective language from John's list.
So there's nothing else in this table that wasn't included in that upper part.
Oh
of the
yeah, sorry,
document.
go all the way. Yep, good point. Go to the very last page. If you keep scrolling down, the 6th goal, I just called it implementation of plans. And I don't, again, like this will need to be a collaborative process here, but just, and I'm not, I don't know what other plans I'm missing or, oh yeah, thank you. Wayfaring, that's in Moana. Yeah, so there, like, obviously it doesn't rest on administrator writer's shoulders alone to implement the entire town master plan. So that's where further definition would be created in the action item column.
Great. All right, I'm going to stop the screen share.
And I guess maybe I'll
So,
say one other thing. I'm not in any way married to a certain template or worksheet style, or, I don't, again, like I feel like I could end up with some kind of like semi-mean nickname about being like the trustee that makes templates or something. And I just was seeking a tool and I wanted to be useful and helpful and kind of fit that, name the criteria and then make this work, to go back to that earlier language, purposeful and effective. So feel free to, this is not personal for me. It's just a starting point. Great.
So kicking it back to Administrator Ryder, have we done something helpful for you? Do you see this as something that we can collaborate on, or do you have a different vision for the direction this can go, or what are your thoughts?
No, I think it looks good, and anything like this where you can help me establish goals, it's your show at the end of the day, to tell me and staff what you want to do. So this is great, and this will certainly allow me to, stay focused on what you guys want me to stay focused on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't speak for everyone here. I definitely don't speak for everyone here. I just speak for myself. But I think one of the goals, one of the outcomes I hope to achieve with this, over 6 months or a year, is to kind of flip the script there and make this your show, where we're supporting you and we're checking in occasionally on these objective updates. But for the most part, you're guiding us in terms of, what the new objectives are, what's completed, things that we just need to push aside. So I think the goal here is to kind of put you in the driver's seat.
That's fine too.
Yeah, and
Cool.
to just be really, to create clarity. Like, I think from the perspective of being a teacher, thinking about, and again, like, we're not your teacher, so I'm not trying to be your teacher here, but creating clarity so that what that means to do, what the good work looks like, what it means. Dad wants to FaceTime with you. And not have it be a mystery. Like I always thought, like when I was a student, like, well, how do I get an A? What's B? What's B work? What's A work? And I think something that we've really tried to do as teachers, in a modern teaching era, is to say this is what this means. And Jordan can probably pipe in a little bit more on this too, but just from the philosophy of like knowing what that is. Sorry,
So I
my
guess
family's a little
trustees,
split up right now, and it's a little hectic at home.
trustees Wiegert, Birma, or Harper, any discussion or feedback
Yeah.
or comments as well?
I can kind of jump in after Sally. I had similar thought process going through my head, just coming up with, I really like what you've done to separate things out. Just creating some sort of measurable goal that's easy for us to look at. And, it's because I really like what John, what you gave us to start with, as far as like ideas for goals. And then I think, creating those action items or something measurable will give us a really good way to kind of evaluate where we're all at with everything. And I think starting from scratch with a lot of new board members, I think less is more with the goals, and, focusing on the important ones and prioritizing, which I think Sally has totally started doing with your template. I'm cool calling you trustee template or mayor pro tem template. You're doing a great job so far. I like them.
Hi, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
I want to thank Administrator Ryder for putting this together. I do find it interesting that we, Administrator Ryder put together a bullet point list. It was in the newspaper of the goals and achievements that he wanted to set forth at Town Hall. And I understand this. I think it's great. I have a hard time sitting back. We are not allowing him to do his job. I understand COVID. I understand everything that we're in. I do not feel that we are stepping back as a board and allowing him to do his job. It is our duty to support him and give him the tools. He had set out a plan. It was in the newspaper for all to read. And yet we are here, another meeting, another night, another work session. We have got a very capable staff. We have got an incredible administrator. I feel like we should take the handcuffs off and let the man work. Thank you.
Trustee Harper, that's an interesting perspective. I completely disagree with you. I think we're enabling him to do an even better job. And it's been a rocky path because of the circumstances. And I think this kind of support helps ensure a higher likelihood of success for the entire town and for Administrator Ryder. So while there was a plan in the newspaper, I don't think it was fleshed out to the extent that, this type of goals and objectives worksheet is. And it's something we can use to measure success against going forward. Whereas that other plan, you're talking about massive, overarching intention that, it's hard to point at something and say, I increased communication between, the town and the county. Whereas if we can break that down into its component parts, we can do that. We can point to it and say like that was achieved. Good job.
Mayor Shane, I understand what you're saying. I just find it, I don't want to say I find it peculiar or find it interesting. I'm just going to say I am seeing this. John Ryder, Administrator Ryder, has done a great job with the previous administration, with the previous board. And now all of a sudden he's under scrutiny for a little bit of everything. And I just feel that we as a board should just be supporting him and supporting staff and almost stepping back and allowing them to do their job. And I apologize if maybe, you know, you and I don't agree with one another. But I truly believe that we as a board are there in an advisory capacity. We are there to support the man, to support the position, and to support the staff. I think the point plan that was in the paper, you know, 30, 40 point plan, whatever it was, obviously you pick a couple of them and then you move on. But I feel like these meetings that we're having they're once a week now. There are a lot of them. They're taking up everybody's time. And I just feel like we should step back and allow the process to work. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Mayor Pro Tem, you had your hand up.
Okay, thanks, Trustee Harper. I'm glad you could join us and share that perspective, and I'm definitely hearing it. I guess I'm a little confused because it's my understanding that it's the role of the trustees to complete this task for John. So I don't think this work session is scheduled to scrutinize Administrator Ryder's work or offer feedback or micromanage in any way. The purpose of this work session is to create a system where we meet our responsibilities as trustees, which is to oversee the administrator and provide guidance and clarity for the work that he's doing. And that it sounded like we needed to have done this a while ago and we neglected to do that. And that's understandable for all the reasons that Mayor Furman stated earlier. And now we have had a lot of meetings in succession, but this is kind of getting to the next responsibility on the list. And in thinking about and researching for the template, you know, it really was clear to me that this is typical for towns. This is not out of the ordinary. This isn't intended to be a particular, you know, statement about Administrator Ryder's job performance. It's really what towns do. And that's new to me, but I did do a little bit of research into the approaches that other towns take and the content that they cover in some of those documents. And I think Administrator Ryder's objectives matched really well with a lot of what other towns are doing. And it didn't seem out of the ordinary. And in fact, quite the contrary, that it's really the responsibility of ours as the employer of Mr. Ryder to offer him that clarity. So I don't have that opinion that we're here to scrutinize or that we're micromanaging Administrator Ryder. I think I must just have a really different perspective on that.
I think also adding to that, this was one of the top priorities that Patrick Rondinelli from DOLA identified that we should be pursuing.
Oh, and I also think if what we want to see from Administrator Ryder is you know, that was a great list in the paper, and it's really long and exhaustive. And I think if we were to expect Administrator Ryder to check those things off the list, he would never live up to the expectation. That list is too long for one human to accomplish. So I think it'd be better to set him up.
And to be clear, that was not just for me, that was for the entire town staff.
Town priority.
I would like to address the trustees and mayor and administrator and say that I never use the word micromanage.
Sorry.
I don't believe I use that term. And I don't believe that that's what we're doing, although we may be leaning in that direction, but we're not. I did not use those terms.
Okay,
And I would
I
like the record to
apologize.
state that.
I must have synthesized that wrong in my head. I mean, I'm not trying to take a position of meddling in Administrator Ryder's daily work, more of just a framework for that work, which already exists. Just
I'm going to jump in. I think we actually had like a 25-minute super concise presentation of what we hoped this to be. If Trustee Wiegert has more input, or if Trustee Harper wants to weigh in on the format, your note is noted, and thank you for providing your opinion. I do want to foster an open discussion on all of these things, but I don't want us to spin out for another 30 minutes on getting off the topic of are we creating a template. Trustee Wiegert?
Yeah, that's a good point. We should allow people to express their various opinions without, taking it so personally. And it's okay if people have other opinions. And I think we could be a lot more productive if we just let people speak their mind, acknowledge that they've said it, instead of going through this whole long diatribe here. Now, to change the topic a little bit, I think that what this really comes down to is trust. And we need to build and foster trust with the town administrator. And if we have a system that is going to help him out, which it seems like he's all in on this template idea, then I'm all about that. I think whatever we can do to help John is what we need to do. But I also feel like we need to trust him. We need to trust that he's going to do the right thing for the town, and we need to allow him to do his job.
Thank you. Any further discussion or input or ideation we want to do on the template? Administrator Ryder, anything?
No, I can work with the template. I guess I would like input, as Mayor Pro Tem said, we did a pretty exhaustive list of goals at the beginning of this year. Is that the level of detail you'd like me to get into in filling out this template?
I think it's more about
more broad, as I did in the original list, and I'm very comfortable with the adds that you and Mayor Pro Tem made to the list. But if we have annual budget in there, should we have annual audit? There's a story behind every bullet point that could get very detailed depending on what you want.
I mean, I think it's really up to you in terms of choosing the scope that you think is actionable, and then thinking through like what I was hoping to come up with the, picking one that's a little bit more open-ended. So continuing to develop operating efficiencies across all departments. I think that's something where it'd be cool to identify things that you've already done and that staff has already done, and then identifying a couple of key goals for continuing that process. In the relationships one, I think that one's pretty interesting to think about, but harder to create tangible next steps. But, what are the things that are actionable in terms of, developing or continuing to maintain the high level of town-county relationship? Are there specific action items there? Trustee Wiegert?
Yeah, I think Mayor Furman's absolutely correct there. That might be helpful for some of the newer trustees. Myself, having seen where we've come here, I've actually noticed some major changes. One, the most notably, is the relationship the town now has with the fire department. That's something that we were never able to maintain in the 4 years before. So I think that's a great idea to line that stuff out, but I just want John to know that it is noticeable what you have been doing, and people that have seen the changes are aware. So.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
right. Thank you. That's a good point. I think too, because this, it almost feels like could potentially be designed to span a longer time frame, because we are delayed in implementation of this, where like if you had identified these action items in your first 3 months of work, you know, you would have already checked some of them off. And so I think it's really important to note some of those accomplishments that have occurred, but that may not necessarily be noted because this is late to the game. And then also because it's designed to benchmark at an annual review, you know, identifying action items that will be ready to be finished at the annual review, you know, where you're like, back in July, I noted that I was looking to accomplish this, and now it's November, status check. Knowing that we're moving towards the annual review, but we're behind in setting up the system to show progress.
Trustee Burma.
Yeah, I like where we're headed with this, and and I think John made a good point of that, you know, the list could be really exhaustive, and I guess I didn't really do a great job before of explaining what I meant by kind of less is more, like, you know, as like the measurable part of the goal being like the, I don't know, I guess minimum or baseline requirement, or, you know, if you're talking about you developing a relationship with the county, maybe the measurable goal is meeting with them on a quarterly basis. And then, you know, that's used to measure, and then anything outside of that scope is just above and beyond and is in addition to that, and can be, you know, noted when we do have the review process. But I think, yeah, just those like short, sweet, like I'm gonna at least hit this mark, and then whatever goes beyond that is awesome. Because I think Jess is totally right on, dude. It's about developing trust, and you know, I think we're headed in the right direction with this. I like where we're going.
Well, I don't have anything else. This one can be shorter and sweet. Well, great. In that case, thank you. Yes, Trustee Wiegert.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, you know, for me, most importantly, with this fiscal crisis that we have going on, that we continue to ensure that we can provide the basic services for people. Talking about fresh water, wastewater treatment, snow removal, garbage removal, stuff like that. As long as we can cover all those bases, then we can start to tackle some of these other things. But, you know, really got to break it down to the basics here. I think water security is extremely important. You know, I talked about this about 3 months ago. I think that's something that we should really be focusing on. We do have less senior water rights. We do have people further downstream who could call on our water in the event of a drought, and the town would have a really hard supply searching for water. So I don't want to lose sight of those goals here. I think whatever we can do to support John, but we got to remember that the basics here are really important for people. And for me, that's my biggest concern, is making sure that we continue to provide the basic services.
Thank you. Trustee Burma.
Yeah, I would totally echo that sentiment from Trustee Wiegert. And I don't know if this is the appropriate place to include that goal or not. That's new to me, but I would definitely like to see some sort of like sustainability goal or self-sufficiency goal for the town. And I don't know if that would fall into like just the town administrator's role or as a goal for the town as a whole. Yeah, I feel like just this crisis that we've had has really, you know, increased the necessity of Silverton to be more self-sufficient in any way that it can be. And I think, you know, water rights is super important, and, you know, I hope we can find a time to really dive into that at some point.
Is there a I wonder if that goes in implementation of plans, that plan that John Seitz shared with us. And it's not necessarily administrator writers. Maybe I'm not clear. I was not thinking that it was administrator writer's job to implement that plan, but that he would be in a supporting role for John Seitz on some of those items, but potentially maybe that's where it lives in this document, to just indicate to Mr. Writer that that's a priority for us.
Great. All right. In terms of direction or next steps, Administrator Writer, this isn't intended to be like homework for you that we're just adding more to your plate. This can be a collaborative process to fill in the tangible things. I'm sure any of us are happy to brainstorm with you if you'd like that help. If you'd like to do it yourself, that's of course okay as well. I don't want to set a hard date for when we would have like a working version of this document, but it would be nice to have something with enough lead time before whenever an annual review would be scheduled, so that we can measure kind of your self-made targets against wherever we're at in a number of months. So I kind of will look to you in terms of setting how you'd like to proceed with that.
Okay.
Great. Anything else?
Well, we're having trouble getting people lined up on the doodle poll. If you haven't done it yet, if you could, this is for the work session to talk about overall town goals and objectives in this board. Patrick Rondinelli, I think it's important that he be there. So we really haven't lined up on any date. So I'm wondering, just send out another doodle poll and try the week after the 20th. So it'd be 21, 22, like the week of the 24th.
Trustee Weigert?
I must be missing some correspondence here. I didn't get what you sent out to the rest of the trustees there, Mr. Ryder, before this meeting, and I just want to ensure that everything's going to jlweigert@gmail. Still locked out of my Silverton town email address. So if you haven't got a response from me on that doodle poll, that's why. I don't remember seeing it.
Okay. jlweigert@gmail.
Yeah, it's the same one that's on the website.
Okay. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
So to clarify, we're not looking at the week of the 10th for that retreat then?
It doesn't look like it because Patrick can't do Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, the 12th, 13th, or the 17th. The best response we've had is on Monday, the 17th, but Patrick can't make that evening. So we'll be looking at, I think, the week of the 24th to see if we can get lined up.
I'm scheduling a preschool retreat that week. So as long as I know it's not happening that week, I'm going to go ahead and schedule for the preschool.
And which week is that?
The week of the 10th,
Yeah.
which sounds like is totally out for us.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bierma?
I was just gonna add, I haven't done the doodle poll, mainly just because my wife is due early August, so everything is super up in the air, and I'm not committing to anything then. So I could be available, but I might not be.
I think that's really a very fair excuse.
Well, all right, team. Thank you so much. Unless anyone has a last minute note, I think we're good for this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one note that I'd
Sure.
like to address.
Please go ahead.
Before we conclude this. I'd like to get a true vote of confidence from this board in Administrator Ryder in the work that he's doing, and I would like to hear from everyone just to give him a big hoo-ah. He needs it, and we need to provide that for him. Sincerely, from each and every one of you, and I'll be the first one to say it. Administrator Ryder, hoo-ah, good job. Thank you, guys.
Well, I'll go next, John. I think I've been pretty vocal, but I think you're doing an excellent job. You're one of the best town administrators I've had the pleasure to work with, and one of the main reasons I wanted to continue to work on the Board of Trustees. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and I hope we can continue to work through what we got going on and make this town much better.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Administrator Ryder. I appreciate the time and extra duties, and that you came over and had coffee with me.
Yeah, I can add to that. I hope this evening's work session I hope you see it as a vote of confidence from us. I look forward to working with you and seeing what you can do, and I've got a lot of trust in you, and think town's looking forward and looking good from here on out.
Thank you.
This is a little of a tough one. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I think that you're set up to be our first long tenured administrator, and I'd like to see that. I can't say it hasn't been a bit bumpy for a lot of different reasons, not just yours. And I think we all have a lot of work to do. And I'm confident in your ability to do that, and I'm excited to work with you.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that you've seen through the framing of the last few meetings that the goal is to support you.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't a mistake that maintain stability of town administrator function through tenure was the number one on the list, because I do feel that this town has suffered through multiple turnovers and beyond the administrator staff. And we do have a great staff working for this town, and to keep everybody in place and myself in place and working harmoniously with boards and other entities has got to be a primary goal at all times.
Yeah, and I hope you stay healthy and happy and take care of yourself here.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. With that, we will end this work session at 7:17, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Board. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mayor. Thank you, Administrator Ryder. Thank you.